Hey guys, welcome into Friday MLB Made Easy. I'm your buddy Choppadong, and we today are going to do something a little bit different yet again. We've toured tools at DFSArmy.com. I've shown you processes for months on DFSArmy.com. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit more about single entry GPP building and how to formulate processes for that. Basically, when should we be looking for lower ownership and key pivots, and when should we not really worry about it all that much? Because I think people overthink the complexity of MLB way too much, and I think that they think themselves into a thinking hole, which actually serves as a detriment to their own game and their own success. We started a single entry challenge at DFSArmy.com, yesterday or 2 days ago. I just threw it out there, grabbed another coach, said, hey, you want to do it? He said, sure. We started posting our results. And people are frustrated because they're not cashing, or maybe they're not winning. I don't know what they're exactly frustrated by. It's not easy to get in the top 20% constantly. I've been a little bit lucky so far on the 5 slates. I think I've cashed in 3 of them, but I think I min cashed in 2 of them and maybe went 3x in another one. It's not some massively profitable endeavor. It's just like MME or just like cash games or just like whatever. You're hoping that at the end of a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, whatever, that you're net profitable. If you're net profitable, you are smoking the game. It is actually on record at DraftKings that 85% of you are unprofitable long term. So it's hard to beat the house rake. It's also hard to beat the game. And add in the volatility of a game like baseball, and it is almost impossible. You can still do it, though. You can learn how. We teach people how at DFS Army all the time. It's a matter of getting your head right and getting things set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually walk through the domination station. I have it open in 2 different tabs. I have the main slate open in one of these tabs so that we can look at the chalk, because that's where the ownerships are right now. And then I have the late night slate, or the 3-game slate, also open in a tab so we can see maybe what changes when all of our possibilities, all of our options suddenly vanish and go away. This, I would not worry as much about ownership on a slate like this. What is that, 10, 14 games? I mean, golly. When your chalk pitcher's 23% owned, it's just not, he might be more in cash games or whatever, but it's just not that much. When you drop off into oblivion and everything's down in the 10 to 15% range, if we looked at catchers, they're going to be, not a lot of chalk there. First base, a little bit in Bobby Bradley? Really? You're going to use him at 2,500 in cash games and such over Freddie Freeman, Matt, whatever? I mean, you can, because you're looking to save money somewhere else. But what I'm saying is there's your first really good pivot, even on a bigger slate. But on a bigger slate, he's not so chalky that you're getting massive leverage by not using him. The other guys are carrying ownership too. When I look over here, see, not much ownership in second base. There's a little bit in Jose Ramirez. Detroit must be just throwing out a schlub today for everybody to love Cleveland as much as they love Cleveland. Cleveland's not exactly a high-powered offense. This is set up actually to my first GPP single entry method or red flag would be just to fade the Cleveland offense. If they're going to pick up that much ownership on this big slate, I've got 28 offenses to choose from, and you're trying to tell me Cleveland is by far the best one. You watch the way the ownership goes. People will be on Cleveland stacks everywhere, and Cleveland is not a great offense. So I'm just playing the odds and saying that one of the other 27 teams is going to be the best, and the first thing I'm going to do is ditch Cleveland. It's going to have way too much ownership tonight. Shortstop, Cleveland again. Here we go. This is where the edge is in this game. Fade your Cleveland stacks. You may pick up a bat or two, but fade the Cleveland stacks for single entry GPPs. Let every other donkey in the world think that they're going to be some important phase on this slate and whatnot. Whatever. I probably just jinxed myself. Cleveland will probably score 10 runs, but I'm just telling you, I know what I know, and what is correct is to fade that offense and choose any one of the others just about. Some outfielders popping up in there. Obviously, Cleveland's going to be popular today. But there's not a lot of really, really hardcore chalk. If we were to remove all of those possibilities, let's look at pitcher again. So I've got Chris Bassett, Corbin Burns, Adam Wainwright, Mike Minor, Mueller, Marquez, Gibson, Manoah, Yarbrough, Caleb Smith. And I stop at Caleb Smith for a reason. He's already down to under 3% ownership on this slate. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing in the world. Not at all. I'm saying that there's a ton of other options in here on the main slate that people view as better than Caleb Smith. However, when we kick over onto the smaller slate, it's Chris Bassitt, Patrick Sandoval, Caleb Smith. Where is Sandoval? He should, you would think, be up in the middle here if he's, I guess, not on. Yeah, he's on that smaller slate, so I don't know why he didn't pop in there. If he's, well, 0.52 ownership, so I didn't sort by ownership. There we go. Caleb Smith is the next one in order. And yeah, your other choices are crappy. So who do you think everyone's going to go to? Is it going to be more important for you to decide whether or not you want to eat the chalk or fade the chalk on Chris Bassitt on that main slate when I've got 20 some odd pitchers to choose from, or on this smaller slate when I've only got 6 pitchers to choose from, 5 of whom are kind of schlubby, right? Obviously, Bassett's going to be massive chalk on this particular slate. This is where you get the most leverage if you fade him or stack against him or take a chance. Whether or not you consider that a smart decision or not is up to you. But in a cash game on this slate, I would absolutely eat the Chris Bassitt chalk and I'd move on. In tournaments, I'd consider maybe not using him if I would slide to a Caleb Smith or something. Maybe I would look at stacking other teams, because the other way to find this out is to look at the second notion, which would be stacking. Let's run a few lineups. Let's run about, 25 lineups. Let's put a little bit of randomization in there just because. Throw a couple of unique players in there. Switch down to tournament mode. This is just how I always set the machine up, okay? But I'm going to turn on the stacking. And I'm going to get rid of these little bitty stacks, and I'm going to go with the bigger stuff, right? Like I'm going to go about 75% 4x3 and about 25% 4x Y. I just want a big 4 stack. I want to see who the optimizer loves. I'm not touching anything else. I want the optimizer to pick among who it thinks are the best. I'll make a few more lineups just because I want to see how this really pans out. The cream will rise to the top. What the optimizer likes will rise to the top. And by doing this, I'm going to be finding the chalk kind of inadvertently. And we'll see if it's the same chalk or where that next layer of chalk might lie on the smaller slate. Is it going to be in Oakland? I don't know. So as this thing starts to run some of its numbers, we're going to come down here, and I'm just going to assume that if I look at run totals and such, Oakland will be fairly popular, San Diego will be fairly popular, LA will be fairly popular. Those are going to be probably your 3 chalk stacks. If one of them is overwhelmingly the chalk on a small slate like this, like let's say the Dodgers, let's say every optimizer, everybody loves the Dodgers. They're the first team I'm fading. Because again, it isn't about being right in this game. It's about being right when everybody else is somewhere else. It's about the chalk failing. So the chalk holds a large percentage of people, and when it fails, it takes a big block of people with it. It should not fail more often than it succeeds, but it is still going to fail very often in a game like baseball. And when it does, it takes 25, 30% of the tournament pool with it. They can't win anymore. They might be able to min cash or something, but they can't win. So what you're trying to do is be alone at the top of the leaderboard when and removing a giant chunk at one time is very efficient for you when you're not there. It shortens the playing field dramatically when you're not caught up in the failure. So it makes a lot of sense to intentionally dodge those failures or those potential failures that are going to take large portions of people with them. I don't care if the Dodgers are the best team on the slate. I don't care if San Diego or Oakland is the best. I don't care about the players. I don't care about projections, really. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I want is I want to know where everybody else is going to play, what everybody else is going to overvalue, because then I can just automatically cut that out of my building. Done. Gone. That is what wins. That is what makes you a better player in this sport. You don't even need to know the game or do any research. You just need to understand the theory behind it, because everybody has access to the same information these days. Everybody's making, the numbers are all pointing in the same general directions. And that is what people are gravitating to, and they're clinging to on a and when you're playing a single entry style tournament, you only get one shot. So everybody says, I'd rather min cash than not get anything at all. They're so scared to lose that they don't play to win. And they're missing the boat. in a $1 entry, I don't want $2 back. I mean, it's nice, it helps, whatever. But I don't, when the winning prize is $250, I'm going for that. That buys me a lot more losing lineups over time for my bankroll. It buys me a lot more. And I don't, to hit that 250, I'm going to have to be different somewhere. It's going to be very hard if LA is the top stack to win with an LA stack when LA explodes, because I'm going to be fighting so many pretty close to mine, combinations that it's just going to come down to a couple of little players here or there. When LA fails and say Texas busts the chalk pitcher too, I'm going to be practically all alone. And now all of a sudden my lineup doesn't have to be as nutted as it does if I played the Dodgers. I can get by. It can be, and if it is, I'll do great. But if it's not, I can still win because nobody else has what I have. Does that make sense? That's a hard concept to explain to people, but it's a very, very, very important one. When I come down again to the domination station here and look at 50 lineups, I look at who's going to be, well, this one has Corbin Burns as chalk, and it doesn't even have Bassett very highly owned. That's actually a good thing, because Bassett's going to be very highly owned on this slate. So for tournaments, it's telling me I can fade Bassett with no problem, right? And then I come and I look at the stacks, and I see New York in 60% of the stacks. That's a giant one. So it's going to favor those New York Yankees. If I look at this particular slate, Texas, Arizona, like I said, Oakland, Padres, Dodgers, pretty much the ones. Oakland, 12% is going to be next. When I run over here and do the same general thing, make, say, 25 lineups, right? Come down to, 3, let's do tournament mode. Just set it up the same with 20% randomness. And when I do this and turn on the stacking again, let's just do this one, 70, well, let's do it the same, 75, 25, and run it. When it kicks out those lineups, there's my 25 lineups, I'm going to see Bassett pop back in there as the chalk because he's the overwhelmingly better decision. So I need to determine, do I want him or Caleb Smith, the number 2 guy, right? And when I go to team stacks, I see Oakland and LA. These are going to be your 2 chalky stacks. You're going to get the most leverage by not using them. You need to make up your mind if you're going to use them or not, or if you're going to use one or the other. But if you came down to San Diego, who has just as high an implied run total, you're probably going to be very unique in your build, even if you chose Oakland or LA as the second side of that stack. Or if you chose even Arizona, you're definitely unique. And then if Oakland and LA don't do so well on the slate and San Diego is the team that explodes, you're only fighting maybe 10% of the world in that tournament. If it's a 2,000 person tournament, you're only fighting 200 people. Whereas if it was, if it was 40 or 50% owned like Oakland might be, then you're fighting nearly 1,000 people for that first place. Would you rather fight 200 people for first place or 1,000 people for first place? Obviously, you'd rather fight 200 people. You're going to win that more often, 5 times more often than 1,000 people. So you need to position yourself in these single entry tournaments to do that. And you can use these optimizers to show you what everybody else is going to see, what everybody else is probably going to just lazily click in and select as one of their lineups. You can then gain the leverage that you need to truly set yourself up for winning opportunities. You're not going to win very often, but when you do, you're actually going to win first place more frequently by avoiding that chalk in these single entries and on these smaller slates than you are if you go ahead and play all of the obvious stuff that everybody else plays. So long story short, what I'm trying to explain to you, bigger slates, more options. Doesn't matter much. Just play it. Play what you think you like, what makes sense to you. Play it, okay? Don't worry so much about pivots and ownership and all of that good stuff. You can find some, like the Cleveland pivot we talked about or whatever. You can find some, but you don't need a ton. Play the smaller slates where the ownership concentrates and make your key pivots there. You will have more success, I promise. Chip Meyer, Chopadong, DFSArmy.com. Friday, MLB Made Easy. Use the coupon code preseason in that description and come and join us. Talk baseball, talk football, talk all of it with us. We can make you a better player, I promise. Peace out.